You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast. My name is Andrew Mackay-Smith, and I hope wherever you are in the world and whatever you are doing very well. You're about to listen to a conversation between myself and a guitarist from the UK. His name is Cris Martin. He released an album in 2016 at Sterling Stuff, and he's released a video toward the end of 2017. Let's listen to what Cris has to say. Here we go. Cris, you've got a new single and video in market called Overrun. It's a slice of...
That's right.
This is what it reminds me of, a bit of surfing with the alien style guitar instrumentation, and that of course references the great Joe Satriani. What's the inspiration behind the track, and tell us also about the concept for the video?
Right. Well, the tracks, it started out as a demo back in 2013. Just the sort of the chord structure of the track was just basic ideas that I was putting together in a studio in South London, and it slowly started to evolve into something a little bit more interesting. And we thought, back then I wasn't thinking of doing an album, but as the recording sessions went on, I was getting more and more different ideas for different songs and things. And slowly, the Bog Dawn album started back there, really. And then 2014, I started to assemble a home studio setup, and that's when production really started on the album fully. And it wasn't until the year after that I actually did all the sort of lead lines and the guitar solos on Overrun. So, it was about 2 years on and off work on the track. And yeah, I will agree that Joe Satriani is a big influence. It kind of sort of musically is an influence, but also in the way how he's forged a career out for himself, out of just being a solo instrumentalist and, not needing to have a band with a singer and all that kind of standard format of the business seems to expect, and so for me that was like, well, there is an opportunity for me to make music on my terms and not to adhere to sort of stereotypes and the problems associated with having bands and lineups and all that kind of stuff. So as far as the video was concerned, we shot, we did 2 videos. This is last year. We did the first thing was Call of the Wild, which Blaze Bayley appeared in, and on the same day we did some shots for Overrun, and the idea was to put it out not too long after Call of the Wild came out, which was in I think July. I think that was released. And we wanted to add some storyline. So the idea of having a sort of non-rock loving producer and his sort of artist evolved through my good friend James Scott, who mixed the album actually in his partner Katrin, and they were quite willing to make complete fools of themselves in the video. And it's actually James's idea to do this kind of idiot that slowly becomes a metal fan, and I think it works quite well. I wanted to, yeah, excellent. Okay.
So you released an album, I think it was in 2006, and on the album Overrun is actually an album cut. So what was critical and
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, so what was your take on critical response and also the fan response to the album? Because I take it you had your fans who've been following you since the Thunderstick days.
Yeah, well, I took a long break from the music business when I quit Thunderstick back in I think about 1984, and I did a bit of session work and played in a couple of sort of non-serious bands. But I left music in about 1997, and I sold all my equipment, guitars, and everything, and I didn't play for about 11 years. So I had to sort of kind of relearn how to play, really. That 2008 I got myself another guitar, and I was very rusty. And I had to. I spent a good 3 or 4 years just really intensely trying to regain, get back to where I was really, and I think I've done that. I think I'm starting to progress from where I was back in the late '90s in terms of sort of where I was technically, and of course, being older, I've got a bit more maturity I think in the way I play, and I'm not trying to sort of show off all
Yeah, I can definitely hear that. Yeah, there's a lot of
I'm trying to add a bit more melody and content. When I was in Thunderstick, for instance, I mean, a lot of the solos, I was just trying to play as flash as I could and show off, the kind of technique and stuff. And you'd get a few takes in those days. We were working with multi-track studios, so there was no edits you could drop in and stuff. But really, pretty much, you play along and record your take, and that was it. But with modern technology and computers now, you can really sit back and then construct solos just bit by bit, and that's what I did with this album. I wanted to produce something that I could people could hear. I put a lot of thought into rather than just show off. And the solos maybe a bit more restrained, shall we say? But I think there's more going on in terms of the structure and harmonies, and but I think I can still shred with the best of them in the right circumstances. But I think it's a bit more of a mature kind of approach to guitar playing now. It's not a race now for me. For me, it's just like an expression of how I'm feeling, and hopefully I can touch people in a sort of musical way and bring a bit of enjoyment. If I can achieve that, that's great. In terms of sort of fans and things, it's been such a long time. I know there's a few diehard Thunderstick fans still out there. I did one gig this year at the Burfest festival. That was in a charity gig for late Clive Burr, and it was a few Stick fans there came up to me and we had a bit of a chat. But he's still got. The fans are still out there, but they're a bit older now and a bit greyer. But
yeah, no, that's fair enough. So you put the guitar down for? Did you say it was 11 years?
11 years, yeah.
What were you doing in those years?
Well, I just went back to sort of normal life, did normal jobs, and just sort of fitted in with sort of things that normal people do, if you like. But there was, I have to say, looking back, there was something missing. I always felt wasn't quite sure what it was. It was a kind of unfulfilled feeling. And looking back now, I realise that if you're a musician and you walk away from it, there is something that
nags away at you, doesn't
it?
Yeah,
it does. And I wasn't aware of it until I started, until I picked the guitar up again, and I suddenly thought, oh my goodness, how did I? Why did I walk away from this? Because there were a lot of things going on back then, and you don't get the breaks that you want, and you think, oh, why am I doing this? And then you think, well, my case, oh well, I have enough of this now. I've done what I can, and time to move on. But rediscovering that I can still play, and I think I can produce good music, and that's a sort of real catalyst for me to carry on. And I find it very therapeutic as well. The whole production of music, the sort of the live thing, and all the business side is a bit of a pain. I have to admit, I'm more at home sort of writing or putting songs together and stuff. Everything else is harder and trickier. But I'm sort of quite happy to just create music. That's sort of my main sort of joy, really. But at the same time, one has to promote your music, and being a solo artist, it's quite hard to sort of put on shows and stuff because you have to hire musicians and promoters and all that kind of stuff, and there is a place for that. But as this being an independent project, there's no record companies or anything behind this, so everything has to be budgeted and self-financed. So videos are quite a good way of doing that because you can sort of give fans a glimpse of how we are, what we're like and stuff, without having to go out on the road with all the necessary costs and hassle involved. So that's why I like putting these videos out, because it kind of shows, it gives a bit of a visual impression
visual
to go with the
accompaniment.
music.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you might have alluded to this already, but look, recruiting musicians for live performances and even for studio work can be a bloody hard thing. I'm going through it at the moment, actually, and
Right.
I've been pretty fortunate that I'm sort of. I always take the view with music that it's either really easy or really hard, and that's been my learned experience and my experience overall. So,
Yeah.
mate, how did you go about recruiting musicians for the project?
Okay, well, all the guitars was quite easy because I played all the guitar parts, the acoustics, some mandolin in there on Call of the Wild. So bass as well I covered. So how I did it was just basically I'd spend a few weeks just like with the mandolin, for instance, familiarizing myself with the chords and stuff, and then I'd record the mandolin parts. Same with the bass. I spent about 3 months sort of learning how to play sort of fingerstyle bass, and then put all the parts down. When it came to sort of vocals, I thought, well, who can I get involved in this? And being a sort of Iron Maiden fan, I thought Blaze Bayley might have been would be a good choice. So I contacted him, and he asked for some links to some of the demos. I sent them to him. He was he quite liked it. So we eventually. I sent him some backing tracks with some guide vocals, and he'd record them in his studio in the Midlands, which it's about 200 miles from London, I think. And then once he'd recorded them, he'd send them over to me. Then we'd work on them in the studio here, and a couple of tweaks that we needed to be done, and he'd record the parts and then send them back to me. Very helpful, considering he's a busy man. He's got several projects of his own, and he's always on tour. So I had to fit in pretty much with his availability to record. But it worked out well, and again we had to sort of book him in for the video shoot that about 6 to 9 months ahead. I think he only had 2 dates in his schedule last year, and at the end of the year, I think it was 14th of December, and we got him down to London for that, and spent the day at the studios. Great chap, lovely guy. In terms of the drums, I thought, I'd been talking to Barry for a while. He was at the time he was sort of in retirement, and he really pretty much left the music business sort of 30 years ago, and he didn't seem to have much interest in doing anything, but then he kindly offered to record the drum parts for me. So same sort of procedure really. I gave him sort of demos, and he was playing practicing the parts at his studio in Folkestone, which is on the Kent coast in England. And he came over up to the house here for a weekend, and just went through we had an electronic kit set up, and that we had a few problems with the latency and timing issues with the software, so he was slightly out of his comfort zone. But we did, I think, 9 tracks. We didn't really have time to go through everything, so what we did was just programmed the I think it was Heretic and the Calling, where we programmed them. They needed bits of tweaking because some of the drum parts he played a certain way and I wanted another way, so I spent a bit of time tweaking the MIDI parts. That took a few months to get everything just right. A little bit of disagreements because Barry likes to sort of play the way he wants, and I wanted the parts kind of how I wanted them. But end of the day, I was happy with what he produced and what the drum sounded like. I like working like this, so you haven't got a drum part, especially if you're recording an album, and we did it the other way around compared to how bands normally record. You put your rhythm section down, then you put your guitars. Whereas with this, I put the guitars down first, and then the drums had to come in and slot in afterwards. So you can't really have someone wanting to change things, because it doesn't fit with the what's already recorded. So we had to sort of rein him in a bit and say, look, that doesn't fit. But you can do that with software. You can just sort of you go into the program and just move some of the patterns around, and it's very time consuming. But you
can do it though. Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. I've had to do it myself. Yeah. I had a chat to Barry earlier in the year actually about he's got a fantastic release for this year. It actually made my number 3 in my top 10, and it's New Wob, and the new wave of British heavy metal isn't something that I typically lean toward, but I really enjoyed the album that he released this year. So it doesn't. So I hear a lot of similarities between the music that you're producing and the work that he's done. I guess in the overall emotion or the feeling that the music elicits. Maybe not technically, but so I totally understand his drumming isn't really a natural fit for the way you play guitar. So it makes sense that you'd have to go in there and augment it through the door after the fact.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that did cause a little bit of friction, I have to admit. But the end of the day, this is my project. And I had to be happy with what was recorded. So, I mean, Barry was also, I did offer him to appear in the video, but we couldn't reach an agreement on the sort of fees and stuff. So he didn't appear in the end. But talking about his album, a lot of the tracks we recorded in the mid '80s, actually.
Is that right? So they're from back then, those songs?
That's right. Yeah. There are versions of I think 6 or 7 of the songs with me playing on them, and I personally prefer those versions. But Barry obviously chose to re-record everything from scratch. But that's all I'll say. I prefer the demo versions of.
No, that's fair enough. Yeah,
a lot of the tracks. But,
so you mentioned Blaze Bayley there, and look, I'll just be completely frank. I thought the Iron Maiden records that he did weren't that crash hot, but I think he as an artist is excellent. By the way, that's no reflection of him as an artist. I think it was just wrong band. I think it was wrong singer, wrong time. To be frank with you, and it's an extraordinarily. I don't think he could have followed a harder singer. Preceded a harder singer.
Well, absolutely. Bruce is one of the top guys in the sort of metal arena, and to follow him is very difficult. Having worked with Blaze, I'd say his range, his key, if you like, is slightly lower than Bruce, and this is probably where he got into a bit of trouble, because his natural key is sort of slightly, I'd say D is his ideal range, whereas a lot of the Iron Maiden stuff is an E, and it was just a bit too high for him. And he was telling me at the studio that he wanted them to detune, a semitone to be able to sing all the parts.
And they wouldn't do it, and they wouldn't go down.
And they wouldn't do it, so so he struggled there. But he's a great blues rock singer, He's
very totally agree. Yeah, I think there was a few. There's a few songs that it really worked on those 2 albums that he did with them, but I don't know what Steve Harris was thinking recruiting him. To be frank, it just didn't work. And there's some songs there that have their own vibe to them, but I think Virtual 11 is almost unlistenable at this point. These are my opinions, by the way. I'm just sharing them.
Right, yeah.
But it's no reflection on the man, is what I'm saying. It's no actual reflection on Blaze himself, because I've listened to his solo stuff, and I've listened to the track that he recorded with you, mate, and you can certainly sing. There's no doubt about that. He was just not right for that band, really. So it's really nice to see that metal fans have embraced him. Metal and hard rock fans have embraced him since that time.
Well, you see, the Maiden fans it's like a huge family, and anyone who's had an association or has been in Maiden will attract their sort of support and attention. And he's carved a career for himself out post Maiden, And he'll be the first to admit he's reached rock bottom, but then he's brought himself up, and he's been gigging, touring constantly since he left Maiden. And credit to him, because it's a tough world out there to make money and to make a living from music, because the internet and everything, it's almost impossible now unless you've got sort of backing or you've got somehow got a record company behind you. But yeah, good. I'm great. All credit to him.
Well, he's doing a much better job than Paul Di'Anno. I'll give him that. I mean, some of the things that I've heard from Paul lately have just been atrocious.
Right. Well, he's got his health issues. I know he's in a wheelchair at the moment, and I kind of follow him on Facebook and stuff, and he's always posting. He's got health problems, and he did some stuff with Air Force quite recently, which I've not heard, but apparently, went quite well. Paul's another one that he's still there, but maybe not quite as mobile or prolific as he'd like to be. But sometimes health does catch up with you, as you get older.
Yeah. Well, Warrell Dane from Nevermore just passed away. I don't know whether you know the band Nevermore, but Nevermore, and I think he was in Sanctuary. But he was a tremendous singer, mate, an excellent singer. Apparently, I mean, I only read what we all can read on the internet through Blabbermouth and whatever other social media style websites there are out there. But apparently, he had diabetes and an alcohol issue, and mate, it affects a lot of us. I mean, it's.
Yeah. I think I've come through fairly unscathed. I mean, I was quite sort of conservative, shall we say, where back in the 80s and stuff, I didn't go to do all the sort of excesses route. So I've emerged reasonably intact.
No, good on you. Credit to you for that, by the way.
Yeah. I don't drink a lot. I don't indulge in these substances. It's all fairly. I'm quite boring and live quite a sort of reclusive life now. But it suits me. I'm not a party animal. I'm much happier sort of sitting at home strumming a guitar than being at a bar or somewhere and raving it up. But,
I think that comes through in your music too. That, because I've interviewed almost 200 people this year so far anyway, at least, so it's not much longer to go. So I've only got a few more lined up before the end of the year, and I get a ton of releases. You wouldn't believe how many releases I get.
Oh, really?
Which I appreciate, but yours cut through. I'll give you that, mate.
That's very kind of you to say. Thank you.
I listened to it, and Darren sent me the email because I'm on his promo list, and I thought, well, no, I'll always listen to anything Darren sends through, and
nice.
And he sent it through, and I thought, I was listening to it with the kids playing in the background, and I was like, this bloody guitarist knows exactly what he's doing here. I'm a bass player, so I guess my point is I'm a musician, so I'm really focused on the performance, and I could actually hear, I think, what you were trying to achieve across the instrumental tracks. So I think you're a credit to what you just said, mate. You have kept your nose out of trouble, so to speak, is what I'm saying, and you focused on the music. So well done for that.
Well, that's very kind of you. I think with music, it's kind of there can be an emotional response to music. Certainly, if I listen to tracks I like, that I can really get moved by certain pieces. And by the same token, if I'm composing and or creating parts, then when I'm performing them, I have to get some sort of feeling or vibe out of them. If I don't get an emotional reaction to what I'm playing, then I think, maybe that's not the right part. And I'm quite meticulous when I'm recording. Some of the harmonies and things I play over and over and over again, and then scrub them and start again. And I mean, the solos for each track, I was probably a couple of days for each solo. And that's like a 10-hour day recording. So you can imagine I'm playing parts and refining them. Maybe changing them, editing them, and I've never worked like this before prior to this, but you do kind of you get exactly what you want out of it, rather than I've done stuff in the past and you think, that was okay, but I could have done that better. But with this album, I thought, I don't think I could have done any of it better, really. It's the statement of where you are musically and mentally at that time of your life, and it's kind of date stamped. It's a kind of slice of where you are in your life, and that's gone now. And I'm kind of looking ahead to the new year and some newer material and album number 2. That's sort of what I'm focusing on at the moment.
It's actually not available over here in Australia, unfortunately. I had to go to the US site or the English site, iTunes that is, to listen to
Oh, right.
a lot of the tracks. Yeah, so you might want to get onto that because I'll be broadcasting this interview as a part of my radio show, which is, of course, well, it goes globally because it's available by the internet,
Yeah.
but it's the audience is predominantly from Brisbane.
If there's any context or in that area, you can pass on to me. That'd be cool. I'm surprised it's not on. It should be on Spotify to stream.
Oh, it probably is on
and
Spotify.
Amazon.
Sorry, yeah, I'm on Apple Music. Yeah. Sorry, I should point out I'm on Apple Music. Yeah, when I did that.
Oh, right, it should be. Yeah. It should be available on Amazon as well. But yeah, physical copies of the CD.
That's your main thing.
That's another thing.
That's the main, well, I mean, for any... look, I mentioned this now, God, we're half an hour or so into the interview, and I'm letting you know this. I'm recording this for the sake of releasing it as part of my podcast series and radio show. But, it's... for anybody listening, it's so integral to support an artist, an artist and the physical copy that they produce, because especially an independent artist like you simply don't get... income from any other source, do you? So what I thought was good about you too, mate, is you had a T-shirt for sale on your website. Now there are so many artists that don't give the ability for fans to support you, but you've done that. You've done that. You've got a T-shirt on there, and you've got access to physical copy too. The two most important things.
Well, I still buy CDs. You see, I know I'm sort of part of the older generation, but I like to have something to look at artwork, read sleeve notes and stuff. And with digital downloads, you don't get that. And I think sort of the older generation, there is still a huge market for sort of physical media that they can sort of take home and sort of put on the shelf or whatever. And with digital music, it's very kind of soulless. It isn't. It's there, but it isn't there. It exists in this sort of digital world that you can't actually touch or hold. It's just it's not quite the same as having a physical copy. I mean, if you look at Iron Maiden, they produce great products. Their albums you can buy sort of box sets and booklets and it's great to have and to sort of hold and cherish. And I think some people say, well, CDs are not relevant now. Why are you releasing stuff on that format? But I think they're good for a few more years at least. I can't look ahead in 20 years' time and say, we'll still be releasing CDs. But at this moment, I think it's still a valid medium, and people do like to buy them. And I know a lot of people put CD on like in the car, you're going about your business, and it's great, So that I think it's still a valid medium, but for how long I don't know.
Well, I think the sort of music that you're playing, you get people that want the physical copy. If you're doing, like a DJ who was producing dance music or what have you, it would be a completely different paradigm. But rock and hard rock and heavy metal tend to endear themselves to fans who want the full picture. So they want to read the liner notes and they want to see the picture up close of what's on the album cover, that sort of thing.
I think you find it with musicians as well. They want to sort of look into the minutiae of the recording process, and what guitars you use, what bass, strings, all that kind of stuff. And you don't really get that sort of information online unless it's on a website or something. But if you download something, you just that's all you get is the audio. And I've got a daughter who's she's sort of 27, and she'll download music for her favorite bands, and I always say to her, if you really like a band, then support them and buy some of the physical products, because it costs money to make music, and it costs money to go out on tour. It costs money to set up websites, everything costs money, and what you get back is nothing near what you're spending out, especially if you're an independent artist. Yeah, so it's an investment. One is thinking, well, maybe this will this is kind of generating interest, and you're building your fan base, and you get it back in sales in future releases. I mean, that's the hope, but it is expensive business, making music and putting it out, but labor of love.
So what do you think when you look back on the Thunderstick albums that you're a part of? So correct me if I'm wrong. I know there was an EP, the name has escaped me, I apologise, but I know the albums were Feel Like Rock and Roll in 1983 and Beauty and the Beasts 1984.
That's right. Well, the EP was Feel Like Rock and Roll. That was a 4-track.
Oh, right, sorry, that was it. I thought there was 2 albums and an EP, but there was an EP and an album. Is that how it worked?
There was an album that we recorded called Don't Touch, I'll Scream. That was basically the tracks from Thunderstick's current album. It was never
because it wasn't released. Yeah, okay.
Wasn't released. Gotcha. We did them in Music Works Studios in London. I think 84, 85. Now, interesting story. I'd left by then, and I got a call from Barry, if I remember correctly, and he was saying, "What are you up to, Chris?" I said, "Oh, I'm just not doing much at the moment." He said, "Oh, would you fancy playing on my album?" I said, "Oh, what? What's going on?" He said, "Well, we're having problems with our current guitarist, and it's not really working out. Can you come and help us out?" So I said, "Okay." So I got my guitar and just went down there, and I ended up redoing all the guitar parts. There were some timing problems with the guy they were using.
The studio isn't for everybody, is it? It's the thing about being in a studio and recording for the purposes of releasing as physical copy or an MP. The album version, I should say, is that it's a bit like mathematics. Either you get it or you don't.
It's like recording in a studio is like having a huge magnifying glass with the brightest of lights shone onto your playing, and any kind of discrepancies or weaknesses are shown up. And especially the stuff Barry was doing back then, it was all quite tight and lots of accents and that kind of thing, quite challenging. And it required quite a precise sort of style of rhythm playing. So, but as it turned out, they were never released, and he re-recorded everything, but I'm not quite sure why. But maybe they'll see the light of day one day. Who knows?
Okay. Well, look, I hope they do too. It's as I say, I think I really enjoy the album that Thundersticks, or I should really say Barry's released this year, and it made number 3 on my list, as I've already mentioned. But mate, yours would have as well. I got to hand it to you. It's just that it was released in 2006, and I only just found out about it. So
right, yeah, not that's nice of you to say that.
Well, it's always a problem, mate. I tend to sometimes get releases and and I find out it's come out in 2014 or something like that, and it's like, my God, it sounds brilliant though. I wish I could include it here. So I try to reach out to the band and just give them an interview at least. Because I like to support the independent artists, mate. Because I'm an independent artist myself. It's as simple as that. Playing
well, this is the problem I had when the album was released. We had some issues with the people who were printing the CDs, and I remember I had to deliver at the house 5 or 6 boxes of CDs. I thought, great, okay, let's put one in. And press play, and it was some Peter Gabriel music. And they'd messed up the master. They'd put someone else's music onto our CDs, so they had to reprint them and resend them, and then I had to repack them. It was an absolute nightmare. But it just messed up the deadline, and also as well, didn't really have much of a budget available to promote it, so it kind of was released. It slipped under the radar of a lot of people, which is a shame. But I'm hoping that'll be addressed with these sort of video releases, and certainly for the next album next year, I'm going to certainly allocate a portion of the budget for promotion and PR. So hopefully it'll get a bigger sort of response, and it won't disappear. You know, we'll see.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, no, okay, all right. Well, touring and promotion. We
Yeah,
just discussed that it came out in 2006, but you've got a new single and a new video out at the moment. So, where can people?
2016.
So,
Sorry.
sorry, 2016, I should say. God, sometimes I
Yeah,
say that as a slip of the tongue. 2006 for
that's all right.
2016. Um, but if people want to catch a show, are you playing outside of or where? I'll just ask a question. Whereabouts are you playing?
Well, at the moment, though, we're not playing anywhere. I'm hoping to coincide the next album release with some maybe a short tour. So I'm thinking of booking some dates for the latter half of next year. Um, but as yet, yeah, I'll have to just say watch this space because it's juggling everything around to end up coinciding at the right date. If you understand, the album has to be ready, finished, everything ready to be released, and the dates have to be there, and obviously dates have to be booked in advance. A lot of venues you're looking 6-9 months ahead, so that's kind of ongoing. I have to say, just watch this space. Really, if you want to sort of check out what's going on, maybe visit the Rock Dawn website, or we're on Facebook as well. So there will be updates of live dates. I certainly do miss playing live, but it is a lot of work having to put a show on. It is tricky, but
So
I do want to.
you're a good enough guitarist to do clinics. Is that something like a lane that's been open to you?
Well, I mean, yes, it's kind of you to say that. It's not something I've considered. I mean, I could teach and stuff, but my partner says I'm too grumpy to teach because it is.
You don't come across as grumpy. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast. My name is Andrew Mackay Smith, and that was my conversation with UK guitarist Cris Martin. Thank you so much for listening.